Keith Moon gave Led Zeppelin their name, unintentionally, as a joke. Expecting them to fail, he and John Bonham became close friends in the years that followed. Two drummers, two men who played with a physicality that no one else in rock music could match, two men who were drawn to the same kind of excess and could not be pulled back from it. Keith Moon died on September 7th, 1978. He was 32 years old. John Bonham died on September 25th, 1980. He was 32 years old. The two men who played harder than anyone else in their generation both stopped at exactly the same age. In 1968, Jimmy Page was assembling a new band following the dissolution of the Yardbirds. The project was not yet public, but word had spread in London music circles that something significant was being built. John Entwistle and Keith Moon, bassist and drummer of The Who, heard the rumors and discussed them. One of them, accounts differ on which, made a remark that the proposed group would go over like a Led Zeppelin. The phrase was an old expression meaning to fail completely and without grace. Page heard the phrase, recognized something in it, removed the article, adjusted the spelling, and kept it. The band that was Jimmy Page has confirmed the origin of the name in multiple interviews across decades. He has described hearing the phrase and immediately understanding its potential, the weight of it, the contradiction between something leaden and something airborne. The name carried both. It suggested heaviness and flight simultaneously, which was, as it turned out, an accurate description of what the band would become. Whether Page told Moon and Entwistle that he had taken their jokes seriously is not recorded. The first time most people in rock music heard the name Led Zeppelin, the band had already recorded their debut album. Keith Moon was born on August 23, 1946, in Wembley, Middlesex. He joined The Who in 1964 at the age of 17, replacing their previous drummer at an audition he had not been invited to attend. He simply arrived, sat down, and played until the band had no choice but to keep him. His style was unlike anything in contemporary rock. He played the kit as a lead instrument, attacking every component simultaneously, treating structure as something to be dismantled rather than maintained. He was also, by the accounts of everyone who knew him, one of the most genuinely chaotic human beings in the music industry, a quality that was, in the mid-1960s, celebrated. John Bonham was born on May 31, 1948, in Redditch, Worcestershire. He was playing drums by the age of 5, using a coffee tin and kitchen implements before his parents bought him his first kit at 10. He left school at 16 to play in local bands across the English Midlands, working construction during the day when the music did not pay enough. He played with ferocity and precision simultaneously, a combination that most drummers spend careers trying to achieve. When Jimmy Page's manager, Peter Grant, first approached him about joining the new group in 1968, Bonham declined several times. He had a young family and a mortgage. Moon and Bonham met in the late 1960s as their respective bands rose to parallel prominence in the British rock scene. The two men recognized something in each other immediately. They were the same kind of musician, physical, instinctive, and constitutionally unwilling to play quietly when loudly was possible. They were also the same kind of person outside of music, drawn to company, to noise, to the kind of evening that did not end at a reasonable hour. Their friendship developed alongside their careers. By the early 1970s, when both Led Zeppelin and The Who were at the height of their commercial power, Moon and Bonham were among the most. The similarities between Keith Moon and John Bonham extended beyond the drums. Both men drank heavily and consistently throughout their careers. Both were known for behavior that was described, in the language of the era, as excess, a word that covered a range of conduct that would be characterized differently today. Both had families they were devoted to, and lives they were steadily making more difficult. Both were surrounded by people who cared about them and found it impossible to intervene effectively. The music industry of the 1970s was not structured to recognize what was happening to either man as a problem requiring solution. It was structured. By the mid-1970s, Keith Moon's condition had deteriorated significantly. His drumming remained powerful on recordings, but live performances had become unreliable. He was consuming enormous quantities of alcohol daily and had developed a physical dependency that required medical management. In 1978, he relocated from Los Angeles back to London, reportedly in an attempt to stabilize. He saw a doctor and was prescribed hemynevrin, clomethazole, a sedative used to manage alcohol withdrawal. On the evening of September 6, 1978, he attended a screening of the Buddy Holly story with Paul McCartney and other guests. He returned to his flat in Mayfair and died in the early hours of September. John Bonham was deeply affected by Moon's death. The two men had been close for a decade. Bonham continued to perform with Led Zeppelin. The band recorded In Through the Outdoor in 1978 and performed their final concerts at Nebworth in August 1979. But those who knew him during this period have described a man who was drinking more than before and with less apparent enjoyment. Whether Moon's death changed something in Bonham's trajectory, or whether it simply coincided with a deterioration already underway, is not something anyone who was close to him has stated definitively. What the record shows is that the 2 years between On September 24, 1980, Led Zeppelin were at Jimmy Page's home at Clewar, Windsor, preparing for a European tour rehearsal the following day. John Bonham had been drinking throughout the day. By the accounts of those present, consuming a significant quantity of vodka over the course of many hours. He went to bed in the early hours of September 25. He did not wake up. He was found later that day by the band's road manager. The cause of death was asphyxiation, resulting from the inhalation of vomit following the consumption of alcohol. He was 32 years old. Led Zeppelin released a statement on December 4, 1980. Without John Bonham, they said they could not continue. The statement was 4 sentences long. It did not mention Keith Moon by name. It did not draw the parallel that was immediately apparent to everyone in rock music, that the two greatest drummers of their generation, the two closest friends among the era's defining acts, had both died at 32 from the same cause within 25 months of each other. The parallel was noticed, written about, and then absorbed into the larger story of the era, a story in which such losses. Keith Moon's Joke became the name of a band that outlasted The Who in commercial legacy and, in terms of active membership, outlasted Moon himself by decades. John Bonham's friendship with Moon was one of the defining personal relationships of his adult life. Both men died at 32. Whether that number means anything, a warning, a coincidence, or simply an arithmetical fact about two men who could not slow down, is a question that has never been answered. What is certain is what they left behind, a name that stuck, a sound that lasted,